Hello. Hello. Hello, 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 hello. Hi, I'm Spantopia Rose, but you can call me Span. How are you? How are you? How are you? This evening we're going to be reading another of my little golden books. If you enjoy these readings, please like this video and subscribe to my channel for a weekly little golden book reading. Thanks. So today's little golden book is going to be the story of Heidi. I particularly like this one. I think the artwork is quite incredible. The story of Heidi, based on the book by Joanna Spyri. Heidi, Heidi, Heidi. A little golden book. This one has this back. This one was bought from Hathaway's Buy and Sell. Little golden book. This one looks quite old. Shall we check the date? Wow, this doesn't even have this little golden book belongs to page. It just has the story of Heidi. So it's copyright 1970, so that's not too old. Rachel Hayes. There's a little note here. It says the house is 1970. $4, Victoria, no date. A little $10 symbol up the top. Okay. Heidi was a little girl who had no parents, only an aunt and a grandfather, and who lived on top of a mountain. One day, her aunt decided Heidi should go live with her and her grandfather. Heidi had no suitcase to pack and to pack her clothes in, so she wore them all at once. Heidi and her aunt started up the mountain. Halfway up was a little village called Dorfli. People in Dorfli said Heidi's grandfather was a grumpy old man who did not like visitors. Heidi and her aunt kept on climbing. Soon the village was far behind. The slopes of the mountain grew steep. The two travellers stopped to rest. While they were resting, Heidi looked up and saw a young boy sitting on a small grassy mound. He was watching a herd of goats, and he said his name was Peter. Every morning, Peter took the goats from the village into the high meadow to graze. He told Heidi that two of the goats, Schwanli and Barley, belonged to her grandfather. Soon Heidi and her aunt reached the top of the mountain. Heidi's grandfather was sitting on a bench in front of his house. Heidi did not think he looked at all grumpy. He was surprised to learn that she had come to live with him. Heidi could hardly wait to see the inside of the house. It had a big fireplace and a ladder to a hayloft. Heidi climbed up. She could see the whole valley from the hayloft window. Her grandfather said it would be all right if she slept up there. The warm sun streaming in the window woke Heidi the next morning. Soon Peter came to get Schwanli and Barley. The little girl wanted to go along too, so her grandfather packed a lunch for both Heidi and Peter. Heidi enjoyed living on the mountain top. Many happy days and weeks came and went. Before long it was Christmas time. Heidi's grandfather gave her a guitar as a present. It was just like Peter's. One day after Christmas, Heidi's aunt came again. She told grandfather she had found a place for Heidi to stay where she would get some schooling. It was with the Sessemann family in Frankfurt. The old man did not want Heidi to leave, but at last he consented. Heidi sadly said goodbye to everyone and followed her aunt down the mountain. They took a train to Frankfurt, but even the excitement of the trip did not cheer her up. The Sessmans lived in a big, dark house. The housekeeper, Miss Rottenmeier, opened the door. Miss Rottenmeier always looked as if she were displeased about something. Then Heidi met the Sessman's daughter, Clara. Clara had spent most of her life in a large wheelchair. She was lonesome and glad to have someone to keep her company. "You must have hated to leave the mountain." she said to Heidi. Heidi was given new clothes and a room of her own, and she liked Clara, but she missed her grandfather, Peter, and the goats. Clara tried to help. She made up games to play and began teaching Heidi how to read. Several months went by. Heidi felt cramped and cooped up in the big dreary house. One day in April, she could stand it no longer. She ran away. She slipped out of the house, into the street, and into the center of town. There she found a tall, tall tower. Heidi went into the tower building and climbed to the top. The wind from the mountains was blowing free and clear, and the sun shone. When Heidi came down from the tower, a policeman stopped her and asked her where she lived. Heidi told him. She took her back to the Sesame house. Miss Rottenmeier was angry and locked Heidi in her room. "You are not to be trusted," she said. Look at this. Look at it. Some time later, a kindly old lady came to Heidi's room. It was Grandmother Sesame come to visit. She decided Heidi and Clara needed a trip to the mountains. In no time at all, they were ready to go. Heidi's grandfather was very happy to see the two girls. He told them they could sleep inside his big bed. He would sleep in the hayloft. Grandmother Sesame stayed nearby in Dorfli. The mountain air was like medicine for Clara. One fine morning she felt so good she decided to try walking. Heidi and Peter helped her at first. Before long she was going to the high meadow with them every day. That is not how I remember this story going. In my version of Heidi in my head, Heidi is a sickly child, and then she goes to the mountains to live with her grandfather, I think. But at the mountains, she becomes well again, and it heals her. And she learns to run and dance and play. This is slightly different retelling. I feel like I've read the original story of Heidi, but I definitely own a copy of the book, but yeah, I'm not sure. Well, I really enjoyed that retelling of Heidi, a little golden book, and I hope that you got some sort of calmness or enjoyment out of this video. Alright, I'll see you all next week. Thank you so much for being here. Alright, good night. Good night, sleep well. Good night, sleep well. Good night, sleep well. How do you turn this thing off?